All right, and so we're back. Here are the explanations on the problems you looked at. For problem number 2, the population would be all of the artifacts collected by the students. Notice it is not the students, it's the artifacts. We're sure it's the artifacts because that was the group of individuals that the project director drew his sample from. The sample, then, is the 2% of the artifacts that the project director chose to check. Notice again, it's the artifacts, not the students that he's sampling. He's checking on the students, but he's not sampling the students. All right, and then the next problem, sorry, I'm having a little problem getting my thing to move. Number 7, this is a voluntary response sample. If you go to the mall and just ask people at the mall, they volunteer to respond or they walk past you and refuse to respond, that sample is likely to overestimate the number of, or the unemployment rate, because the employed people are by and large at work, okay? Or they have less time to just hang out at the mall. Okay, so hopefully what we did in the last section made sense. Let's move on. So we talked about how to get a poor sample. Now we're going to talk about how to get a good sample. And probably the number one used method is the simple random sample. A simple random sample leaves out any possibility of bias in your sample. Every individual in the population has an equally likely chance to be selected. It could involve throwing the names of all the people, if they were people, into a hat and then selecting some. If I could take all the batteries in my population and throw them into a gigantic bin, maybe one battery of each brand, and then pull out however many I determine I want as my sample, then I could do that. Or if I could take all of the batteries of each brand and pull out one of each kind, then that would be a simple random sample. But even as you're hearing, it's just not always possible, but a simple random sample is a great sampling method. There are a few ways to get a simple random sample. One way is to, as I said, if you can identify all the individuals in your population, either by name or by number, you could throw slips of paper into a hat and pull some out to get your sample of whatever size you want. Another way would be to use a random number generator, which we have on our calculator, and I will be telling you about how to do that later on in this video. And then yet another way would be to use a table of random numbers, which I'm going to show you next. So when they use SRS, that stands for simple random sample, okay? So the first step in either method, using the table or using technology, would be to number every individual in the population. And then using the random number generator, you obtain n different integers from that sample of numbers. Notice n is the size of your sample. Actually, something that we will study later is how do you determine how big of a sample you need. But for now, we're just saying, you need n. If you're using the random digits printed on the page, a table, I'm actually going to show you how to do that right now. So here would be an example, and let me point out a few things. Across the middle of the page, there's sort of a purplish stripe with some 5-digit numbers printed in it. This is actually one line from a table of random digits. And if you would pause this video for a second and take out your textbook and turn to page T5. T5 is in the back of your textbook. And you remember where we looked at the tables before for Unit 2. So it's back there with those tables. It is a table that you would be given on the day of the AP test, and it is a table that you will get when you take the test for this unit. So if you turn back to that table, It's called Table D, which is the random digit table. And if you look for line 130, you'll notice that this purple line here is line 130 from the random number table. So what they've done is they've given us a list of 28 hotels, and we're supposed to randomly select 4 hotels. So to use the random number table, we begin by making sure that all of the individuals in our population have the same number of digits assigned to them. So there were 28 hotels. 28 is a 2-digit number. So therefore, all of the hotels have to be assigned a 2-digit number. So we go back to the numbers from from 1 through 9, and number 1 becomes 01, and number 9 becomes 09, and that way they're all 2-digit numbers. Now we go to our line in our random number table, and we take the first 2 digits because we're looking for 2-digit numbers. Well, the first 2 digits make the number 69, and 69 is not a number on our list of hotels, so we just cross it out. We just don't use that one. We go to the next 2 digits and we get 05. 05 is definitely one of the numbers on our list, so we've now selected Beach Castle as one of our sample hotels. The next 2 digits, and notice we go across the space, are 1 and 6, making the number 16. So the spaces are really not important at all. They're only there so that visually it helps you to divide up where you're at and keep track of it. So don't let the space make you think you're at the end of a number or the beginning of a number. So 1, 6 makes 16. We do have a Hotel 16, so that's the Radisson. There's that one. The next number is 48, not on our list. The next number is 17, the Ramada. There's a 3rd hotel for us. We need 4. The next 2 digits, 87, is too big. And then notice that 17 is a repeat. So when you get to a repeat, even though it's on your list, you're not going to choose number 17 twice, of course. So you just kind of don't count it because, hey, we've already got 17. And so it goes, taking 2-digit numbers, 2-digit numbers, 2-digit numbers, until you come to number 20. Okay? Notice, if you weren't always taking 2-digit numbers, like hidden within those crossed out numbers would be like, well, there's 40 and there's 95. You might say, oh, well, 09 is one of our hotels. Yes, but we'd already used the 0 with a 2-digit number for 40. And so the 9 became part of 95. You're just always taking 2-digit numbers since that's what you had on your list. All right. So specifically now, here are instructions on using the random number table. So you can refer back to this if you need to. It is on page T5 in the back of your book. Notice that the left-hand column is just the row number. So in a problem, they may assign you, go to table D and use row whatever, 110. And that's the row you would use. The row number is not part of the random digits, however. So you start your random digits in the next column. Yet another way to get random numbers for selecting your simple random sample is to use the random number generator on our TI-84 calculators. So these are the step-by-step directions on how to do that. So pull out your calculator. You might want to pause this for just a second. You could read the page. I'll talk you through it. But you click on the math button, which is on the left. You arrow over to PRB, and then you'll select number 5, which is random integer. So it says rand int and there's parentheses. And so then you're going to type the smallest number on your list, which normally is 1. You usually start numbering at 1. I only say that, I don't mean to be facetious, but you could theoretically start at 0. But we usually start at 1. And then you put a comma, and the comma is above the 7 on the keypad. And then you type your maximum number that's on your list. So like in the hotels on the other screen, we would have had rand int, parentheses, 1, comma, 28, close parentheses. And then you press enter, and a random number from 1 to 28, and it could be 1 or 28, pops up on your screen, and you just keep pushing enter until you have as many random numbers as you need for your sample. It's really very easy. Okay, so what you should do now is turn to page 230 in your textbook and do number 12. This is the end of this video, and the answers to number 12 will be explained on the next video.